So you've just had a day of swimming, boating, sunbathing, and just enjoying the hot summer weather. But now the sun is down, and you want to watch a scary movie. So today I'm going to recommend 10 hot summer horror movies for you to get the spooky season started early. And we're not going to be discussing the big obvious ones like Jaws, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to dig deeper and find out what else is out there. So my name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started. Piranha 3D from 2010. So I broke this list into different categories, and first of all, we're starting with Spring Break, which I guess is technically not summer because it's spring, but come on, spring break at the beach, it's that kind of summer atmosphere. And this is actually a remake of the Joe Dante film Piranha from the 70s, and this one's directed by Alexandra Aja. But the Joe Dante one, it's not actually that summery. It takes place at a river, but people are mostly walking around in flannel. But this one has some of the most summer atmosphere of any movie ever made. It's exploding with swimming, boating, shirtless dudes, bikini babes, literally as far as the eye can see. On the whole, this is a remake that says, okay, let's do that original premise, but crank it up to 11, like every bit of it. Now, the cast for this one is actually fantastic. Following along with Jaws, it mostly focuses on the small town sheriff, who here is played by Elizabeth Shue. And while she's trying to solve the problem of these piranha along with Adam Scott, really great to see Adam Scott here, all of these teen spring break antics are by following her son, played by Stephen McQueen, who is actually Steve McQueen's grandson, which is wild. And he has this crazy plot where he gets spontaneously hired by this sleazy adult film producer to location scout for him, played by Jerry O'Connell. And Jerry O'Connell, as a friend of mine called him in his Letterboxd review, plays King of the Douchebags, and he is hilarious, so funny. Everything about this film is gratuitous. It is way over the top, very sleazy, very goofy, and the violence is insane. Admittedly, some of that is kind of lame because of an over-reliance on CGI. You'll see somebody in the ocean and a bunch of fish swim up and just start chomping at them, but it's all really fake looking. But there is one massacre sequence that is so gruesome, so gratuitous, I could not believe my eyes. It's like maybe they kept finishing the sequence and Alexandra Aja was like, no, we need a few more dead bodies, we need a few more bite marks on that person, we need some more blood over here, and they just kept going and going, and like, I was beside myself. It's kind of amazing. Yeah, it's silly, it's goofy, but I like a movie that looks at its premise and goes all in with it. Nothing held back, as bonkers as it can be. That is Piranha 3D. Still in the spring break category, we're talking about Nightmare Beach from 1989.
Who killed my friend? Who?
This is an Italian horror film directed by Umberto Lenzi, but it's also from the same producer as Primal Rage. And I've talked about Primal Rage on this channel a lot, and this one feels a lot like that. It's even got a cast member in common, at least one, where it feels very much like an American movie, very convincing as one. In fact, the best way I can describe this is it feels like an 80s beach comedy. If you've ever seen an 80s beach comedy, you know that's a particular kind of vibe. Except there's also a guy in a biker mask running around killing people, and you actually do get some really gruesome kills. There's one where the killer opens up this furnace and just fire shoots at her, burning her to death. Absolute insanity. Really, really fun. But I don't think that's the main reason I enjoy this so much. I like it as an 80s beach movie. Now, the characters certainly aren't the most interesting or fascinating, but they're fun enough, and I like to follow them, running around trying to solve these murders, find out who the killer is, but you just get a lot of fun beach antics along the way. This is another one like Piranha that goes all in with the summer atmosphere. So many bikinis, so much swimming and boating, like they really just go all in with it, and it's just a good vibe. If you're just wanting to watch a horror movie, but feel like you're at the beach, feel like you can live vicariously through that, and just have some good summer fun, Nightmare Beach is a really good option.
Something is watching you. Lake Nowhere. You won't get out alive.
Lake Nowhere from 2014. A love letter to 80s video nasties, this vicious slasher tells the ageless tale of a group of friends who go to a lakeside cabin only for, well, you know the rest. That's actually the official synopsis for this movie verbatim, which I think is really, really fun. This is going under the category backwoods slasher. You gotta check out some backwoods slashers if you are in a summer horror mood. And even though this came out in the 2010s, this is a total throwback nostalgia movie that goes for a VHS gimmick. On purpose, it looks like you are watching a VHS that's from the 80s, that's a little bit old, a little bit scratchy, but it's got that nostalgic vibe to it. There's even some trailers that play before the movie even starts. Like the first one is a satanic giallo type movie, and when they're homaging that kind of thing, you know these are true horror fans making this. But other than some laughs in those trailers, once you get to the movie, it's not a joke. It's not a comedy. And I loved that. They just used the nostalgia stuff for the style of it. But it doesn't look like the 80s. People aren't dressed like the 80s. They're not all talking about 80s music and pop culture references. It's just not burying you in nostalgia. It's actually a legit horror movie with creepy atmosphere, with tons of dread and gory deaths. The killer is actually very creepy. He had a really unique look to him, and when we first see close-ups of his eyes, as you see for a while, I was just like, whoa, this is something different. I'm kind of creeped out. And it's even got something a little more supernatural up its sleeve, a bit of an Evil Dead influence to it, and by the end, it's kind of haunting. Now with the characters, there's not a whole lot there. There's not much time to really set much up with them. And the actors are kind of amateurish, but nobody stood out as particularly bad to me. They were good enough. But the best part? This is 51 minutes long, which I don't even know if that qualifies it as an official feature film. But if you're looking for a second movie in a summer horror double feature, this is perfect. But if you don't want this kind of thing as a retro homage and want to get to the real deal, let's talk about the backwoods slasher Body Count from 1986.
What are you doing in there? Listen, you were right, we really got... Jesus, what the hell?
Now this is an incredibly basic and typical backwoods 80s slasher from the director of Cannibal Holocaust. It's just about two groups of fun-loving college kids who go camping at a cursed campground, and they're stalked and killed by a terrifying figure. The campground is actually run by cult icons David Hess and Misty Farmer, which is fun. And there's actually some decent family drama and moments with them, along with the sheriff who's investigating all these happenings. But everything with the college kids is so amazingly stupid. The characters are all exactly the same. They have no distinct personalities, save for only the token, slightly overweight comic relief guy who doesn't seem like he'd actually be friends with any of these people. The story is almost non-existent. The dialogue is some of the most ridiculous, nonsensical, and all-around worst that I have heard in a long time. But here's the thing. If you want a totally basic, corny, 100% stereotypical 80s slasher, this one totally delivers. Gruesome kills, boobs, characters sneaking off to ridiculous places to rocket onto the break of dawn, but of course die instead. And a killer who actually does have a creepy look and pretty solid lore. Based on this description, I know some of you guys are going to run away from this movie to the hills, but some of you are like, this is exactly my thing. So for everything you expect and some laughable moments along the way, check out Body Count.
The terror of Jaws will not stop at the edge of the screen. Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3D from 1983. A giant 35-foot shark becomes trapped in a SeaWorld theme park, and it's up to the staff, including the son of Police Chief Brody, to save the day. Yeah, I said we're not going to be talking about Jaws, but we are going to be talking about Jaws 3. Here's my weird history with the Jaws sequels. Now, I think the original Jaws is actually the greatest movie ever made, and it's been one of my favorite movies ever since I was a little kid. Just Jaws absolutely rules. But I avoided the Jaws sequels for a long, long time because I just didn't want anything tainting that original. I never heard good things about them. Years ago, I finally watched Jaws 2. Didn't really care for it. I thought it was just kind of a much less good rehash of the original Jaws, though I've never given it a second chance. Jaws 3, I finally just watched leading up to this video. And I like that this one is so different from the original Jaws that there's really no reason to compare the two. And yeah, the main character, actually played by Dennis Quaid, which is cool because Dennis Quaid's one of my favorite actors, is technically Police Chief Brody's son, but that doesn't really matter. It barely comes into play. You can just look at this as a shark in a theme park movie, and that is the next category that we're looking at, which is water parks, and this is actually SeaWorld. And while I was watching it, I just kept waiting for it to be become the terrible movie that everybody told me it was, for it to jump the shark. And the thing is, it just never really did. I mean, yeah, there are some super cheesy 3D effects. The effects are so insanely dated. And the final shark attack is one of the most unintentionally funny things I've seen in quite some time. But that kind of thing just doesn't really matter to me. I am charmed by 80s 3D effects. I enjoy Friday the 13th Part 3D. I enjoy Jaws Part 3D. I really liked the characters and the cast of this film. Yeah, you got Dennis Quaid. You've also got Leah Thompson before she made Back to the Future. But actually, I think the standout cast member is Bess Armstrong as the park's senior biologist and Quaid's girlfriend. She is great. Very likable, capable character. I really liked following her through this thing. And just the atmosphere, the vibe of being at SeaWorld. It's fun. Like, if you're just looking for good summer vibes, Jaws 3D is 100% going to give it to you. But all that said, it's never really that thrilling. It's certainly never scary. There's not enough kills, and the shark is just never really that frightening. The effects take you out of the reality too much for getting scared. But it's not really why I'm watching Jaws 3D. I'm watching it for the good vibes, and it's a good cheesy time. I like much worse movies than Jaws 3. Sticking with water theme parks, we're talking about Revenge of the Creature from 1955. The creature from the Black Lagoon is captured and placed in a Florida oceanarium to be studied by scientists. Yes, this is the sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and, you know, I've noticed I've been getting a little heat online lately for putting too many black and white films in my list, and people saying, hey, just because something's old, just because something's classic, doesn't necessarily make it good. And guys, I absolutely know that. I have seen plenty of bad black and white horror movies, but my love for horror started with the Universal monsters, so I just love this kind of thing, even when it's kind of mediocre. And you know what? I'll be honest. Revenge of the Creature, it's kind of mediocre. I think the original Creature from the Black Lagoon is basically a masterpiece. I think it's an incredible film. And the third film in the trilogy, Creature Walks Among Us, is the best of the sequels. It's pretty interesting, but it's also a downer. And Revenge of the Creature is fun. It is good, cheesy, 1950s drive-in movie fun, and I like it. I love the aesthetic of the creature running around a theme park that's basically SeaWorld, attacking people, even throwing victims around at a beach. It's really summery. For my money, the creature from the Black Lagoon is the best rubber suit monster that's ever been put to film, so I just love watching him do anything, and in this movie, it's a blast. But I'll be honest, the characters, the actors, they're pretty weak. There's a bit of an emphasis on a romance between two cardboard people, and I don't care about it at all, and I really don't care much about those people. All the other Creature from the Black Lagoon movies have better characters than this one does. But this one has got a great 50s drive-in vibe. It's a lot of fun, and it is the feature film debut for Clint Eastwood. So if you like any Clint Eastwood movies, respect to Revenge of the Creature.
They began in the water. They're not human, but they hunt human women. Humanoids from the deep.
Humanoids from the Deep from 1980. Our next category is Sea Creatures Terrorize a Small Town, but this also follows very well after Revenge of the Creature because the monsters in this, the fishmen, very much owe a lot to Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's that kind of monster, and I just love that kind of monster. And this movie just has a phenomenal atmosphere. I love the small seaside town vibe of it. It feels very authentic, really feels like a real place. The actors are very capable, and while nobody stands out as having a ton of charisma, they just feel like real people that you'd actually find walking around this town. As a monster movie, this really delivers. The costumes, the makeup, effects of the monsters look fantastic. I love watching these things come out of the sea, and you get some good beach scenes here with monsters coming out. There's some truly harrowing stuff. There's a sequence towards the third act when a bunch of creatures are coming out at a big town celebration, and it feels big. It feels like a blockbuster kind of movie. And what really makes it stand apart is the very interesting backstory of the film, that the creatures are not just coming out to kill people, they're coming to breed, which is actually something the director did not want in the movie, but Roger Corman was a producer on this, so he insisted upon it and got that stuff into the film. And, you can debate whether that was the right thing for him to do, to overstep the director's vision, but I think it does save the movie from being generic. It's not just a bunch of monsters coming out to bite people, eat people, the way you've seen a million movies. It's got an extra element of true horror, of violation, and it makes these monsters feel scarier. So there's a debate to be had there, but I think it really makes the movie work. Humanoids from the Deep is actually a lot of fun. Following along the category of sea creatures, let's talk about The Bay from 2012.
We're in the middle of some kind of viral outbreak. It's eating their organs.
It's an eco-horror film about a small coastal town that's destroyed by an outbreak of parasites from the surrounding bay. So this isn't something unrealistic. This isn't mutant fish monsters coming out of the sea. These are actual tiny little bugs that you can find in waters. And what if too many of them get into your water supply? What if every time you jump into the bay, into the ocean, they're getting into your mouth and growing and biting their way out of your body? This is a terrifying, disgusting eco-horror film. And actually, I just talked about this on my last list that I did on the channel on like infection, outbreak kind of movies. Normally, I would never put a movie on 2 lists in a row, but it's just so perfect to talk about here. This is actually a 4th of July movie like Jaws. It all takes place around this big 4th of July celebration. And it's a found footage movie using footage from news broadcasts, phones, 911 calls, webcams, and whatever else could be found to document this. And it's just another element that makes it feel so real. And a lot of the footage is very amateurish. It's like, early 2010s webcams. They didn't look that good. But it's just so immersive in this true nightmare of a scenario. It is disgusting, absolutely sickening, the things that happen to these people. Watching these bugs actually like come out of people, like, oh man, it's like the scariest thing I could possibly think of. So the Bay is gross, but it's also a really good movie, and it's actually directed by Barry Levinson, the guy that made stuff like Rain Man. So he handles this with a lot of skill, and I really think it's an excellent movie.
Some of us have been talking and we've decided to take over the camp.
To the revolution! To the revolution! To the revolution!
Summer Camp Nightmare.
Summer Camp Nightmare from 1987. A group of campers revolt against their strict camp director, played by Chuck Connors, and take over the camp for themselves. This is in the category of course, summer camp, and it's the only summer camp movie we're talking about on this list because I actually just did a video on summer camp slashers just last month. You can go check it out on the channel. But this actually isn't a summer camp slasher, and it even rides the line of horror movie. You might even say it's a little bit more of a thriller. It's a Lord of the Flies type movie about these campers who take over. They completely incapacitate all the adults, and it's just about what would kids do if they had full control of a summer camp, doing whatever they want. It's PG-13 and mostly seems geared towards a teen audience, but does have some genuinely dark stuff happening. And it's just really interesting to watch these kids form their own oppressive government. Charlie Stratton really stands out as a character named Franklin, who really becomes like the fascist dictator of the camp. And almost all the kids just go along with it and make increasingly horrible decisions with no one around to tell them not to. There's a solid group of characters, a few standout people like Charlie Stratton and Tom Fridley, who's also in Friday the 13th Part 6, but as a much darker character in this one. Unfortunately, Summer Camp Nightmare is really hard to get a hold of officially. It's not on streaming. It hasn't been on physical media since VHS, but you might be able to find it on this very platform, and the quality is actually pretty decent. And for a good summer camp thriller, I'd recommend it.
Can you imagine the first people that crossed this desert? They didn't know where they were.
The Hills Have Eyes from 2006. It's the story of a family road trip that goes terrifyingly wrong when the travelers become stranded in a government atomic zone that is actually the breeding ground of a bloodthirsty mutant family. Now this category is the desert, but it's also for you guys who don't necessarily want to watch just a fun horror movie when you come in from your beach day. You want something actually scary, you want something actually disturbing, and this is not a fun summer with swimming and boating and good vibes. This movie is hot, it is oppressive, it is miserable. It's also the second Alexandra Aja remake on this list. The original, of course, was from Wes Craven in the 70s, and that's a movie I like, but I'm actually not a huge fan of it. And as far as Wes Craven's 70s movies, I like Last House on the Left a little bit more. This is the superior remake. This movie is awesome. It is really intense, really gruesome. This mutant family is horrifying, and it feels so scary watching our characters try to get away from them, try to survive, but it's always just the right balance, so I'm always having a good time with it. It's disturbing, but for me personally, never too much, and it really feels like a genuine roller coaster ride of a horror movie. It's a lot of fun. I also want to shout out this character, Doug, who is a young dad who literally fights through hell to save his baby in this movie, and that is a trope I just love. I love to watch dads just go nuts trying to save their kids in a horror film. You know, the deadbeat dads, they get too much press. There are a lot of good dads out there, so let's get more great dads in movies, damn it. Don't tell my kid I cursed. The Hills Have Eyes is a heart-pounding, adrenaline-fueled horror experience, and I love it. Before I go, I just want to give a massive shout-out to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. If you want to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout-out to Mark Lopez, FilmFan78, and Chill. You guys absolutely rule. So that's my list, but what other summer horror movies would you recommend? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can always click this video right over here for my summer camp horror films list, or this playlist for a lot of my recommendations. Give a like and a subscribe if you haven't yet. Thank you all so much. I will see you next time. Bye.